And when I looked up, there was maybe between 30 and 50 people standing around us, like asking us questions, wanting to see the baby, wanting to touch her face.
Wow.
Really surprised me. That was kind of like my trial by fire
Right.
of how it was going to be in China.
That's really funny. Hey Laowinners, it's Laowinners here with another video, and I have a very special guest today, all the way from Shanghai. You're not from Shanghai.
I'm from Shanghai.
You're from Shanghai at this point, right?
I'm pretty much from Shanghai. I might as well be from Shanghai.
This is Michael Prima. How long have you actually been there, by the way?
I've been in China about 10 years, Shanghai about 8 years.
Basically, I brought him here today just to film in this rainy, kind of miserable weather. By the way, we had a hell of a shit show today.
It was the worst day of my life.
Over 40-degree heat index, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Going out there all day, sweating, trying to film your daughter, because you actually have a channel about your daughter.
We literally walked through the fire.
We did. It was literally the fire.
We came outside. We came out the other side. Okay, though.
I think so.
I think so.
Nothing a couple drinks won't cure, that's for sure. Now, although we have been kind of roaming around the hot days and filming and stuff, there's a couple things I actually wanted to chat about, because I have had a few expat friends here in China. None of them have kids. And if they do, maybe they had kids back home. Or they're a Chinese friend, so they have fully Chinese kids. But you are in the very unique situation like I am, and you actually married a Chinese woman and have a mixed daughter, right?
Yep.
And that's the focus of your show. That's just what you do. You go around and you film her life in China. But you told me earlier that something very special about this is that she's 8 years old right now, but she's actually never been to America, right?
She's never been to America.
So she spent her entire time in Shanghai, in China, right?
Yep.
And I think it's a really interesting perspective as an American dad yourself, you know, raising a mixed child here. And I think I'm going to headline this really quickly by saying, if you had a mixed race daughter or son in America, I don't think anyone would bat an eyelid.
Nope.
If you were in, you know, small town Alabama, someone might think it's a little bit weird here and there, but it's 2017, right? You have mixed race kids all over the place.
That's true.
Now, in China, it's the polar opposite. And something that I've noticed with a 1.5-year-old daughter is the stares. I mean, that's the first thing we can kind of mention is the stares. People stare at you, right? People stare at your kid. Would you say that the stares are usually a positive curiosity or something a little bit more malicious?
100%, it's just a positive curiosity. I mean, when people see our kids, they're usually the same kind of questions.
Right.
You know, where's she from?
Right.
She mixed blood. Where's her mom from?
Right.
And where am I from?
Right.
And then they just ask us, usually, like, how is our life here? Like, what do we do?
Sure. What are some of the most stereotypical things people say?
Can she speak Chinese?
Right.
Can she speak English? Or does she speak English at home? Or
Right.
does she speak Chinese? I would say that's the first question.
Right. So she's 8 years old now, and obviously because she's been here so long, she does speak fluid Chinese, right?
Her spoken English and Chinese is exactly the same.
That's something that I find really bizarre, is that if I speak Chinese, and most people would say I'm pretty fluent, you definitely know I'm a foreigner, right? But when I hear your daughter speak English, I'm like, oh, a little American girl. I hear her speak Chinese. Oh, a little Chinese girl.
Yeah.
And there's no difference between the two levels. I think it's been fantastic. And go ahead.
And she can switch back and forth, like depending on who she's talking to, just
Right.
on a dime.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a benefit, right?
Sure.
Do you think that's one of the reasons that you decided to have a child here? Was to give her an advantage?
I think for now, like, absolutely, like having the two cultures and I would say quite different cultures,
Right.
you know, and to be like an amalgamation of both of these things.
Right.
Even the people who see her outside, they do make comments like, wow, she's going to be really smart, because
Right.
they even recognize like having these really different cultures coming together is a positive thing.
Sure.
It's always going to be a positive thing.
Right, right. There are, you know, huge benefits to this for sure. However, I mean, like, just, I don't want to get into the dark stuff or anything, but just me, like, growing up, you know, raising my daughter here in mainland China, the influences of outside forces like mothers-in-law, I think we can both agree on, can be quite negative at times, right? Would you say that, you know, there are equal parts Western, you know, philosophy, Western ideas, and what, you know, Western style of parenting and Chinese styles of parenting?
You know, it's a constant struggle, I think, at home, especially because her grandma lives with us.
Right,
and
right.
she's from Harbin, and I mean, she's basically from another time and place, literally.
Right.
So I can't, you know, there's a lot of eye rolling. There's
Sure.
a lot of things that I don't understand.
Right.
There's nothing I'm going to change about like her philosophy on the world and parenting and kids. And you know, she's raised kids and she has her own ideas about
Sure.
parenting. I have my own ideas about parenting. Sometimes I feel like my wife is caught in the middle of that. She needs to be reasonable and kind of listen to both of us. She's never said like, oh, you should listen to my mom because
Right.
she knows what she's talking about.
Right.
Or she's never said like, oh, you should listen to my husband because he knows what he's talking about. As we go on, we are more accepting of each other and we're more like, okay, you can run with that. And she'll let me run with my ideas and they play themselves out.
That's actually ideal, isn't
Yeah,
it?
for sure.
I mean, I think I've had a lot more difficult scenarios raising my baby. I mean, especially Cantonese people, Cantonese parents. I mean, they don't budge, right? So everything they say is the word of God, basically. Like, as a 30-year-old man, I don't have the authority to have my own opinion, and that's the biggest struggle we had because I don't argue with my wife.
Right.
She sees things eye to eye like me. She went to school abroad. She gets it, right? But it's the outside influences, right? And I wanted to ask you, like, just in general in China, the Chinese influence of childhood, the Chinese influence of education, all of these things that are so different from where we grew up. What positives do you see and what negatives do you see out of those things?
For sure, like the most positive thing about my wife and her mom, Adelaide's grandma, is that I know she's always going to be healthy. She's always going to be full. She's always going to be safe.
Right.
And I think those are like the most important things. And then now that she's older, we're kind of adding education to that. And I think that is like one of the things that we struggle with the most.
Right. I got you. So what are you butting heads about on that front?
Just the idea of like how much education a kid needs or how much time an 8-year-old should spend doing math every day, how much time they should spend studying Chinese, and how much you balance that with like play and fun, ballet, music, things like that.
I would say across the board here in mainland China, I mean, play and fun is not something in the vocabulary of someone in primary or middle school.
Absolutely.
Right? They slog through tests. Some are driven to suicide.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the stress level is something that we've never dealt with.
I would say the pressure that they put on them, especially as they get into high school and the years that they're transferring into college and these tests that they have to take. I know there's some big ones, and I know that the pressure that these students have to be successful, I mean, it can make or break them as far as like their whole future.
Right. I tried to ask your daughter a couple times, how do people see her? Do they think she is a foreigner or do they think she's a Chinese person? Because a huge topic in a lot of my videos is just the fact that you can never become a Chinese person. It's a racially homogenous society, right?
Right.
And there's no one to blame for this, but it's not the melting pot that we grew up in.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you, in daily life in general, if somebody talks to your daughter, a Chinese citizen, do they treat her like a Chinese person, or is she still this kind of anomaly, this weird thing that happened in China?
She's kind of like like a unicorn or a white whale or something.
Okay.
I don't think, I don't know, I can't say for sure, but I don't think that they consider her Chinese.
You don't think so?
You know, she's kind of in this gray area in between. They're totally accepting of her. Like every teacher she's had, all the parents, all the students, everyone loves her, and they're really curious about her. But I don't feel like they're fully like, oh, she's a Chinese person. Because,
Right.
I mean, if she was, I don't think they would be giving her that kind of attention. You know, like if they saw her as another Chinese person, they're not going to be so curious. They're not going to ask these questions.
Right.
You know?
Something actually I noticed yesterday was when she met a cute little girl here on the street. And the little girl was definitely intrigued by your daughter's appearance. Like, that's why she probably approached her, right? 10 minutes later, they're just chatting away in Chinese and they treat each other just like a couple Chinese kids,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Which is really cool.
Which is awesome because children don't see that. They don't see that.
Absolutely. Now, you actually mentioned that it influenced opportunities that she might have had, right? What opportunities does she have that a normal Chinese kid just plucked off the street wouldn't have?
She does a lot of like commercials, modeling, things like that. And I think she gets a lot of opportunities through that. I feel like people are more willing to like let her try new things as far as like modeling, commercials, things like that. She looks different. And I think like probably the for sure, the first thing people think when they see her is she looks different. She
Right.
does not look like your normal Chinese
Right.
person. So I think she has opportunities to express herself in ways that Chinese people aren't allowed.
Right. That's interesting. Do you think that would actually leave her in a situation where she'd get away with more?
For sure.
For sure.
Absolutely.
A little bit more leeway.
When we were in Harbin, when she was a baby, we would walk down the walking street or just go to the park. And there was one time that we stopped on the walking street, and I think this probably happens a lot to people in these third-tier cities who have mixed kids or
Right.
foreign babies even. You know, babies are cute, but they're really fascinated. So anyway, we stopped in the middle of the street, and I was under the stroller mixing formula, and when I looked up, there was maybe between 30 and 50 people standing around us, like asking us questions, wanting to see the baby,
Wow.
wanting to touch her face.
Wow.
Really surprised me. That was kind of like my trial by fire
Right.
of how it was going to be in China.
That's really funny.
We were at a mall a couple years ago, and there was I think it was a talent academy where they teach kids like piano,
Right.
ballet, all of these things, but really expensive in Shanghai. These kind of training, like specialty training schools are few and far between.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was in a mall, it was really expensive. Anyway, they went to my wife and they actually asked her, you know, if she will be kind of the face.
Okay.
You know, and do some posters,
Right.
do some advertising, whatever you need. Like she can go to the ballet classes.
Really?
She can go to the whatever you need. It's okay. It's
So
on
she
us.
represented the brand.
Yeah. So in return, like it was like you scratch my back, we'll scratch yours. And it first, you know, I just asked her, Adelaide, is that something you want to do? And of course it was. You know, she loved it. So we get like, you know, even though we could afford to pay for these things, we're getting them for free because because of the way she looks.
And that would have never happened if she was a normal Chinese girl.
Absolutely not.
Actually, one thing I wanted to say, and to kind of like wrap this up, is Michael here has an absolutely fantastic channel. We've been in touch for a long time now through a little social media group that he started on WeChat. Through there, I found his videos, and I was kind of blown away because usually when you see kind of smaller channels in the beginning, you expect to see this like grainy iPhone footage, poorly edited and stuff. But this guy, you know, his gear, his editing, his skill and technique is completely blown my mind. It's so much. It surpasses everything I've seen in China thus far. And I really think that you provide an incredibly useful insight for people. And it's just that it needs to find that audience, right? Sure. And a lot of Chinese people watch your channel and they're thoroughly entertained by it. And I recommend you guys out there go check it out. I mean, why don't you just explain what you do real quick?
I have a show called Raising Shanghai, or 生次 Shanghai in Chinese, which means like rose-colored China. And basically, we go to places around Shanghai and other places in China, and she is in the moment, in that place, experiencing that thing. For example, a music concert in China, or a museum in China, restaurants, parks, sporting events, everything. But it's all through her eyes. It's the way she's experiencing things. I really have nothing to do with it. I'm only the camera. I'm only the eyes. Everything is her. Everything you hear is, you know, her words, her ideas. So it really is like just a small time capsule of her in that moment in Shanghai or China.
I can safely say I've never seen anyone do anything like this, and I love the way that you don't feed her lines. She can say some ridiculous shit sometimes, I'll be totally honest with you.
Sure.
She'll just say, like an 8-year-old does, right?
Sure.
I love that aspect about it, because what you're gonna do if you stick with this, and I'm sure you will, is you're gonna watch her grow up, and this is the best time capsule you could ever give your kids, and also a great way to see China through a child's eyes, right? Because we come with preconceived notions about everything. As in a 30-year-old adult, if you go somewhere, you already have a judgment about that place. And that's what I find so kind of decompressing and cathartic about watching your videos.
I like that, you know, she's always positive about where we go, and I like, you know, when we watch other vloggers and they talk, you know, 30, 40-year-old has different ideas about the world. You're talking all kinds of things, but through a child's eyes, you're just seeing it like as she sees it.
Exactly.
I think that's the beautiful thing about it.
I've had a lot of fun, you know, having the opportunity to film with her. It's kind of opened my eyes about a new aspect, a new way to shoot things, a new way to film things without kind of going in there with this huge script and idea of what you're going to do. Just get in there and, you know, see how you feel about the situation. I'm quite inspired, to be honest with you. And you guys should definitely go check him out. He's Raising Shanghai on YouTube. If you're on Chinese media, you can find him on, what's it called?
Meipai, Meow Pie,
Meow Pie.
Billy.
He's on all the stuff that people steal my videos and upload to before I can. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Laowinners, and I'll catch you on the next one.